Hi guys, and welcome back to my YouTube channel. My name is 𝐀𝐟𝐿 and I'm a certified nutritionist, a mental health advocate, a digital content strategist. I appear as a guest speaker. Guys, I do a lot, so I don't like saying that much on this platform. Follow me across all my social media platforms on LinkedIn, 𝐀𝐟𝐿, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok at 𝐀𝐟𝐿, where I am a nutrition educator. So on this platform, we talk about life, nutrition, and experience. And May is Mental Health Awareness Month. So we are continuing with the theme. I know last week there was no episode. I was supposed to talk about food for thoughts. But hey, that's why this episode is very, very important. So we're going to look at how social media affects mental health as a creator. And I know if you're watching me, definitely you're creating content on social media, and sometimes you feel like your mental health is taking a hit. So stay tuned. Don't forget to subscribe. And guys, like, share, leave a comment. How has social media affected your social life or your personal life or your mental health? Just everything to do with your well-being. You can leave it in the comment section, and let's start this episode. So we're going to look at the realities of being constantly online. Yeah. So I feel like one of the things we underestimate as creators is how mentally exhausting it is to always be online. For me, I am always exhausted. Sometimes I even dread coming online. And it's not just about posting, it's constantly checking how your metrics are, responding to comments, thinking about the content you're going to post next, observing trends, what is trendy, what can I do so that I stay ahead of the trend. By reality, monitoring engagement, the likes, the comments, the impressions of your posts. I feel like at some point social media feels like a platform. Social media stops feeling like a platform and start feeling like an environment that you never fully leave. Like sometimes I log in, especially on LinkedIn, I just look and scroll through, and then I look at my time, it's 1 hour, And I feel like that constant visibility can quietly start affecting your mental well-being in ways we don't always recognize immediately. Because for me, I think I'm self-aware. I've been working on myself for so long. I know when I start to feel the pressure to remain active in very many platforms, when social media starts now infringing on my personal life, I feel like my mental health is starting to take a hit. I know when I'm always online, and then it starts becoming exhausted or exhaustion or just exhausting in general. I know. So I check myself. So I hope this episode will be able to help you also check yourself. So I'm going to look at the pressure to stay visible. So I'll leave the definition of visible or visibility on your screen. So one of the biggest pressure we face as creators, and that is to remain visible, like the definition says. So algorithm, just look at the TikTok algorithm, the Instagram algorithm, Facebook, here on LinkedIn algorithm. It reward consistency and frequent posting. Audiences expect presence. Like when you have a lot of followers, you have a lot of engagement, your audience will always want to see your presence online. And when you disappear for a while, it can feel like you're failing or you're falling behind. So you as a creator, you start having this fear of losing relevance when you just take a break. And that is something I have been unlearning, because I always check my impressions, and I'm not that active. I see starting to go down, and then it triggers anxiety about me losing my online relevance, So I feel like most creators struggle with, if I stop posting, will people forget me? And like I said, I also go through that a lot. So rest starts to feel risky. Like I started thinking, should I rest or should I just keep going? Because my engagements are high. I have almost 20,000 impressions. If I stop posting, the impressions will dwindle. So let me just continue without taking the rest. And that creates a cycle where people continue producing content even when they're emotionally exhausted. And for me, I aim at breaking that cycle. When I want to rest, I rest. I do not care about the dwindling numbers when my likes are not there, my impressions go down. I prioritize peace and mental wellness. So we're going to look at the comparison fatigue, and I feel like this slide will resonate with many creators out there. I feel like social media also creates a constant comparison, especially among peers, and the difficult thing is that comparison online is very endless. Like, you compare yourself with this day, the next day you compare yourself with the next. Someone is always growing faster than you, getting more engagements than you, receiving more and better opportunities than you, achieving milestones than you. And even when you're doing well yourself, because I know you are, repeated exposure to other people's success can quietly distort how you see your own progress. So it distorts your self-perception and also your confidence. So the comparison fatigue does not always look dramatic. So you might start feeling like I'm left behind, regardless of your personal. There's some things we don't post on social media, but it's progress. So sometimes it's just like I'm not doing enough. So comparison fatigue quietly increases the emotional exhaustion that I talked about in the last slide, and then in turn it's going to affect your mental health. So we're going to look at the validation and engagement cycle. I know this slide also resonates with me, can you? And I feel like we need to honestly talk about engagements and a validation cycle a lot. Even I think I'll create a post on my digital content series talking about this. Because whether we admit it or not, metrics affect us emotionally. Sometimes I can say, I don't care about the likes, I don't care about the impressions, but they affect me. Like when I get low impression, I feel so bad. When I take a break, or Sunday is usually my time to rest, and I come back on Monday and I check my impressions and my total impressions have gone down, I feel some type of way. So when, for me, a post goes viral, not in a sense that you think, I have a reward system, because the likes, the comments, the views, I keep going back to that comment. I'm like, yeah. So it gives me an emotional feedback, like dopamine. When you exercise, or when you've eaten something nice, or you've done something nice, you have always this reward system. So engagement starts to influence your mood and your self-worth unconsciously, even if you don't think about it. This post has gone viral, because that's why when you look at people who have gone viral, you will see it. I don't want to talk more about that, but you will see it. Yeah. So when something you've worked on gets little response, it can feel discouraging. Let's say you've sat down, you've thought about this post, you've thought out of the box, you've created good colorful carousels, and then you log in, no likes, like 5 hours later, no likes or 1 like. You might feel a little discouraged. Yeah. And then when you get a high performing content, it creates a temporal emotional reward. And then when it doesn't really work or perform as you had hoped, you start feeling disappointed and you start questioning if this is the right path for you. And I feel like that is also something that I have been going through. So over time, you might unconsciously begin attaching emotional value to numbers. Views become emotional feedback. Likes become reassurance. Silence becomes self-doubt. So that cycle can become mentally draining. That's why I talked about breaking that cycle. Because once you learn and master yourself, such things will not bother. Because if you have a goal of why you're posting online, the likes, the comments, as long as your audience is getting what you want them to get, those things will not bother you that much. Maybe if you're making like your whole income relies solely on social media, but I still feel like it's still the same, because you cannot run on emotional dryness. Let me just say that. We're going to look at the mental load of constant content creation. And as a content creator, I've been doing this for about 3 years. People often see the final post. People don't see the invisible mental work that goes into creating that post. You're generating an idea, especially if you're the whole person managing your social media. You're generating ideas, you're scripting. If it's a video like this, that's why you see me looking down, because my script is down here. Filming, like I'm doing right now. Editing, I have to edit this after I film because I do not have time to edit it another time, you know. Plan from Monday to Saturday the content that will be going on my pages and some of the pages that I'm managing, and then now adapting if it does not work. So that is a lot for someone who is doing this as their source of livelihood. So many creators are thinking about content even during moments that they are not supposed to. For me, even if I'm at work and a content idea just pops up, I write it on my content pad, you know, my phone. So I'm constantly thinking about ideas even if I'm not working per se online. So that constant mental engagement reduces opportunity for recovery, because I just can't sit still. Like, I'll just be thinking, what will I post on my Facebook page to educate more people, on Instagram stories to educate more people, on TikTok, what reel can go viral? You know, we can't help it as content creators. And I feel like it becomes so consuming that if you don't take care of yourself, you might take over. We're going to look at the burnout in the creator economy. So I'll leave what creator economy means. And creator burnout is extremely real. I think I talked about it in season 3 of my digital content creation series. Go to my YouTube link playlist, you'll see that digital strategy season. And I think it develops quietly, you know, gradually. It's just not sudden, like you wake up and you're feeling a burnout, you know. At first you're excited, you're logged in, and then as you push harder because that reward system needs more feeding, then you start to feel pressure to maintain that momentum, you know. I have to keep working, so emotional fatigue appears before physical exhaustion. And then if you're passionate like me, you know, you become like overworked to just justify, like I justify sometimes pushing myself. And because many creators are passionate about what they do, overworking becomes easy to justify, like I said. And eventually creativity decreases, motivation drops, and exhaustion increases. That's why I took a month-long break, because I was very, very exhausted, as I talked about in that video I posted about coming out. And some people continue posting while emotionally depleted. I used to do that in my first and second year of my digital content creation, but this year, as I'm going to my 4th year, this year, last year and this year, I told myself I'm going to have a plan and I'm not going to waver from that. When it's time for me to rest, I rest. Yeah. So we're going to look at the emotional impact of visibility. Like, I define visibility for you guys. So there's an emotional pressure that comes with visibility itself. When you exist publicly online, people form opinion about you constantly. And I know when you watch, especially those influencers, you have an opinion about them. Yeah. So sometimes, whether you like it or not, you start to pressure them, or they start to feel pressure to appear polished, stay relevant, remain positive, keep producing, you know. That's why there are a lot of online creators going in depth, doing a lot of showbiz to stay online, showing us this pleasing aesthetics so that they can look polished, you know. You have to be vulnerable to people you don't know, and I feel like this for me is emotional exposure. That's why I cannot do a lifestyle vlog. I tried, because I cannot let you guys in my life that way. So that's why I just prefer this type of content, slides and me talking in one place. I don't have to show you when it's not necessary. And over time, this can feel emotionally draining. There's an emotional tension between who you are privately and what your public expects you to be. That's why they also battle a lot of mental health issue, because people don't differ. Someone can meet you when you're not like onlining, and when you really are stimulated and you don't want to be that way, and you talk to them some way, they say you kona madharau na maringo. So I feel like there's just a huge emotional impact of visibility that people don't talk about, and it's something that we should talk about. So we're going to look at productive culture and content pressure. Social media rewards a productivity culture. Like, you have to constantly produce and they want to see your output. So creators may feel guilty during periods of rest and silence, like I used to, but these days I don't. So there's this idea that you should always be building, always posting, always growing, and if you rest, you're somehow losing momentum. But creativity is not designed to function under constant pressure. For me, when I'm pressured, I do not have any creative juices at all. That's why I schedule my rest, and I am so unapologetic about it. And I remember and I tell myself, rest is not laziness, it's not falling behind. And I do not want to be pressurized to doing something I do not want to. When I do not want to do something, I don't do it. I don't pressure myself to do it. Because sometimes unsustainable, the pressure coming from this culture reinforces unsustainable content expectation. And guys, sometimes rest is what protects creativity from collapsing completely. Because for me, after a long period of rest, like I have a lot of ideas flowing in me. So we're going to look at healthy digital boundaries. And I feel like every episode I talk about mental health, I'm going to always be pointing out boundaries, because boundaries help, because they separate online presence from personal identity, because not every moment needs to become a content. And I know if you're a content creator, sometimes you can blur that line, and not every experience needs to be documented, and not every period of silence means you're failing. Healthy creators create space between their online identity and their actual well-being, because sustainable creation requires recovery. Guys, come, let me tell you a secret. If you look at those who are creating content in a healthy way, they do take 2 or month old break after a long, let's say like 2 months of content creation. They take 1 month to rest, they come back. They just don't continue. I know when you're starting up, there's that fear, so you end up doing too much, but you should watch out. So we're going to redefine consistency online. So I think we need to also talk about this. I come to define what consistency is because I already did. And I feel like people confuse consistency with constant output. But for me, consistency means sustainable rhythm. Sometimes consistency looks like posting less, but intentionally. Creating within your capacity, minimum viable action. Taking breaks without disappearing emotionally. So the goal is not constant produce. The goal is to continue producing sustainably. And for me, consistency online, I don't pressure myself. I have room for flexibility. I have rooms to take a break when I want to. We're going to look at how to protect your mental health as a creator. 1, rest improves creativity and emotional regulation. So always rest. Create boundaries. For me, I have support system that reduce isolation in digital work. And for me, my self-worth is not dependent on engagement. That's why I said whether I post and it get likes or does not, I will still post. And I feel like when you reduce pressure, it helps you reconnect with the purpose of why you're creating content, and I feel like it improves your performance. So sustainable creators build systems that protect their mental